Hello everyone, this is Dilshani from Literary Genius again. This is our fifth video lesson in analyzing Batter My Heart. In the previous video we finished analyzing the octave, and today we will analyze the sestet. If you watched the first introductory video, you will know what a sestet means. It refers to the last 6 lines of a Petrarchan sonnet. Okay, now let's get things started. And before I plunge into the analysis, I would like to recite it for you. Okay, here we go. Yet, dearly I love you, and would be loved fain, but am betrothed unto your enemy. Divorce me, untie you, break that knot again. Take me to you, imprison me, for I, except you enthrall me, never shall be free, nor ever chaste, except you ravish me. Okay, here you go. If you can remember, in the last video we discovered that the speaker is greatly frustrated because he cannot show his faith in God despite his fervent desire and attempts to do so. So in the beginning of the sestet, the tone changes a little bit from frustration into one of deep admiration. Yet dearly I love you, and would be loved fain. This becomes visible in the first line itself, as I just read. The word fain means gladly. I love you dearly and would be glad to be loved by you in return, he says. In the second line, the speaker suddenly becomes a groom who is, to his much displeasure, is married to God's enemy. Earlier we talked about him being a town who is owned by someone else than God. And in this case, he says he is married to God's enemy. So this idea that he doesn't belong to himself or to God, and the idea that he is controlled by some other force which keeps him away from God, recur throughout the sonnet. Betrothed here means given in marriage to someone. So by treating himself to be a groom who is married to someone else other than the true love he desires, in this case oddly enough it is God, this creates a metaphysical conceit. There you go, finally. It is a metaphysical conceit because this analogy or comparison is very strange. Who would compare God to be one's partner in love? And he becomes desperate again, pleading with God to divorce him or break that bond between him and the present partner, who happens to be God's enemy. And this present partner, and of course the invader who captured him as a town earlier, these things could be symbolic of anything that drives the speaker away from the path towards heaven, towards God. It could be his sins, it could be his worldly desires, it could be anything that keeps him away from God. And of course, his requests are that he follows this metaphysical conceit is equally strange. He asks God to imprison him because if he wasn't enthralled, then enthralled means enslaved by God, he can't be free, he says. And this is actually a paradox. How come one be free when he is enslaved? But in this case, it is not an ordinary enslaving he is talking about. Becoming a slave to God for him means he submits himself to God completely. For the speaker, being able to completely give himself up to God is the ultimate way of showing his faith. So it all boils down once again to his fervent desire to show his faith in God. In other words, his desire to show his faith in God is actually synonymous with his desire to seek salvation. He also says that he cannot be chaste or pure unless God ravishes him. If you read the last line, again he is using a violent metaphor here, or a metaphysical conceit for that matter. The word ravish contains sexual connotations, and I have given the dictionary definition of ravish within the brackets: carry off by force. It is used to refer to the act of raping. It is very strange that and queer for someone to compare God to someone who forces himself sexually on a person. Very much strange indeed. I have given Yes, and he claims that he cannot be pure unless God ravishes him. This is yet another paradox. Don't you think the word chaste is opposite to the word ravish, right? They are polar opposites. And you can't expect someone to be chaste if that person was raped, can you? But in this case, the speaker can actually. In order to be pure, he needs God to force himself upon the speaker. And this paradox stands for the speaker's request to be destroyed completely with all his desires, with all his sins, so he could become pure again, devoid of all those desires and sins. And in that way, he could finally reach the blissful heights of heavens and thus find salvation. And finally, I'd like to comment on the poet's use of the personal pronoun here, me. Not only in this section, the personal pronoun me is often used, very much used throughout the sonnet. And I'll read off the last bullet point. There is much repetition of the personal pronoun me. This shows that the feelings of and thoughts in Batter My Heart are very personal to the writer. So if somebody asks you, do you think this is a personal poem? Yes, it is, because not only one of the hints you can take is the constant repetition of the personal pronoun me, and we know that thematically also it is very personal, that it is about the faith, it is about the relationship between the speaker and his faith, which is very much personal. Okay folks, well done. We have reached the end of the sestet and the entire sonnet for that matter. There's one last thing I'd like to do. I'll explain the themes in the next video, which will be the final video for this series of lessons in analyzing the sonnet Batter My Heart. We will also do some critical thinking exercises, so you'd be able to think more critically and creatively. So that's it for today. Hope you got something out of this, and once again, study well, work hard. That's the only way of getting good results. Actually, there are no shortcuts. So I wish good luck to you, and thanks for watching.